Okay, we are here today with Sam Suba, who is with Fit4Realestate, which is your own brand. And you're going to tell us a bit today about how the real estate market is working within the Tampa Brandon region, how you started your business, and anything that people should be looking out for within real estate.
All right. Well, my brokerage is Century 21 Link. I always have to plug them. I love my broker, so I work across the street, but my brand is Fit4Realestate. I came up with that in 2020, but I've been in real estate since 2015. I've been with Century 21 since I started, and I've been with Century 21 Link since 2017, so I've been there for quite a while. The real estate market here...
Real quick before you do that, tell more in depth about the brand itself. Like, talk about how you came up with Fit4Realestate, because it's pretty clever.
Okay. I've always enjoyed fitness. I've always been a bodybuilding and fitness enthusiast my whole life. I grew up around it. My dad was, very physically fit. So I don't remember. I think I was talking to Kevin and I said something about just something about fit for life. And I thought, Fit4Realestate would be kind of cool because it's kind of, I'm fit for the job, but I'm also physically fit type of thing. And then it's kind of a play on words, and I just started putting it out there and took off and been that way ever since. So that's kind of how I branded myself. I've given like vitamin C and stuff like that as closing gifts to people, and so everybody kind of knows.
Time fitness too.
So when did you actually get into real estate?
2015.
2015.
I got licensed, and I was with a big Century 21. They were still privately owned, but they were a bigger company than where I'm at now. And I loved it there because I got, I would say, the best contract training ever. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you, if you're in this business, and Kevin can tell you, there's a lot of agents out there that they are very good, but they really do not know the contract and the process of a lot of things. And like some of the things that I'll see on contracts, and I'm like, who taught you this?
If I could jump in on that really quick, the one thing I see as a mortgage broker, so my business is mortgage brokerage, and her being in real estate as a realtor, what I do is they're my referral partners, right? Mm-hmm. So I see all different types of agents. Yeah. I see all different types of experience, and I see different things that they do and don't do. And I always know, and I'll plug Jeff Labuddy here. Mm-hmm. Jeff Labuddy's the general manager that trained her. He's the contract expert. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he's an expert witness on real estate contracts. Mm-hmm. So he's a very good trainer. Yeah. And I can always tell when I get a Jeff Labuddy trained agent versus when I don't. It really does matter. It makes a huge difference in the transaction.
I still have Jeff. He was at our old Century 21, and I always joke with him because the one night he didn't do career night and someone else did, that's the night that I went. I was like, you got stuck with me. But I owe a lot to Jeff because he's incredibly intelligent. Line item by line item, he knows that contract better than anybody. He's actually had to represent certain things in court. Attorneys will pay him to be the contract expert when something goes to, whether it's mediation, arbitration, litigation, anything like that. Mm-hmm. He's actually been paid by attorneys. He's very, very smart, knows his stuff, and he's also an investor. He owns a lot of real estate. So learning from him and just getting that mentorship, I think, is extremely important because there are some people I'm like, I really can sit down and help you. How
many contracts are there in the state of Florida?
Well, there's 3, but some areas like Duval, which is Jacksonville, Miami-Dade, Miami area, mm-hmm. and then Tallahassee, they have their own that's written by the Florida Bar, but kind of generally everywhere else, there's 3. I will say probably 90% of my fellow peers think there's 1, and it's the worst one. It's written it was for lawyers by lawyers. It was made in 2008 for all the short sales that came out, and they call it the FAR Bar as is. So a lot of people think, Florida's an as is state, and I'm like, oh my God, it's not. I promise it's not. And I've won listing. I've won listings against some of my fellow peers because that's the first thing I go to is, this is what they advertise for you. Let me tell you why this is not good for you as a seller. And then if, listen, I'm going to get offers on this particular contract. I can show you how to combat it. So that way buyer just can't walk away from you. Let's keep this thing together. But another thing I pride myself on, even when I am working with an agent that just really is not, we'll say, educated in the area, I still at least try to help, because I say, look, we're all here to make a paycheck. We're all here to do right by our people. I'm willing to help you, but as soon as you become pompous and arrogant, I promise you I will cost you money at the closing table. I have done that before. I don't like to do that. That's just an ugly way of doing things, but yeah, I think that's where my strength is.
Give an example of that. Like, tell us, like, so people can understand, like, what is a way that, like, other agents would cause themselves to miss out on some money?
Well, this was probably my first year, and I was at my old Century 21, and Jeff was there, which Jeff is now at Century 21 Link, so that works well too. But she was with another company, I don't remember, and she submitted an offer. And so I always say, seller requests offers on, at the time it was the CRISP 13, it's now the CRISP 16, which I know that's, jargon that nobody cares about, it's boring. But she sent me something on a different contract. She sent me the offer on a different contract, but the addendums that I uploaded in MLS for somebody to submit were related to the other contract. So now you're getting into, well, this is referencing paragraph 3, which is a financing paragraph, but over here it's referencing a different paragraph. And I said, hey, can you please resubmit this on the correct form? And she goes, no, you need to present that. And I said, okay, I'll present it. And she goes, the sellers need to do that. And I said, oh, sweetie baby honey cookie, I promise you I will cost you money. So I said, okay. And Jeff goes, you know what? Just have them executed. It's going to cost her money. And she was kind of one of those bimbos. She goes, oh, I'm at an acting thing in Orlando. And I said, well, you're supposed to be at an inspection for your buyer. Well, can you go and open the door? Nope. Sorry, I'm not doing that. And so she had something, again, these are referencing two different things. And the way she messed up, she just was incredibly difficult to work with. She was almost very arrogant. So I crossed one thing out. I had the seller's initial. She had the buyer's initial. And I said, okay, well, you have a deadline that's due in 20 days. It's day 19. If this isn't happening, you're going to cost yourself about $1,500, because I guarantee you your buyers aren't going to have it. That's what happened.
Okay.
So I was like...
And from my perspective as a mortgage broker, what's really important in the contract is the deadlines, the timing of everything that happens. Mm-hmm. And a lot of real estate agents aren't very, I shouldn't say a lot of real estate agents. There's some that are really good at, some that aren't very good at keeping you on schedule, keeping you on deadlines. And even as the lender myself, what I experience is agents will keep me moving too, in a sense, where they're sending me the right information, sending me the right details versus me having to ask for it. And that's something I've experienced with you is, we've obviously done deals together, is I get everything I need from her without asking, and the good agents do it like that. Yeah. And a lot of them, they understand the contracts, they understand the different paragraphs and the things that are in there.
When I email a lender and I'm on the buying side, I put in the listing agent's name, phone number, email. I put in the title company's name, phone number, email. I put in this information, the HOA addendum is attached or something's attached, and I separate all the documents. That way it's just easy. And I can't tell you how many times a lender has said, thank you so much for this information, because most of the time we have to go fishing for it. And I'm like, no problem. I don't know why other people don't do that. It's pretty easy. But
will you go back to Jason's question and give your take on what the market's doing and the environment currently in Tampa?
Well, let's even go further back. So because you started in 2015, you experienced the Florida market before the crash of COVID. Mm-hmm. You've experienced the market with the inbound of COVID, where everybody fluctuated down to Florida. And now you're in the point where we're having a reverse in the market, where Florida is no longer, with the new administration, Florida is no longer the end point for everyone to travel to. Mm-mm. So give your insights when you started. What difference have you seen between those 3 points? And then considering, I think it's 1 in 4 people in Florida have a real estate license. It's a very saturated market. Mm. How do you put yourself above everybody else to make sure that you can actually come into the market, make sure you can power through, considering that every second person is selling a house, right? Because there's so many real estate licenses flowing around, and everybody claims to be a real estate agent, but there's a difference between claiming to be one and actually doing the job and following through with it. So give us some of your insights of what you've experienced.
2015, when we started, we were on a rebound from basically 2000, I would say 8, but 2009 to kind of 2012, 2013, when the crash happened. And so 2015, we were kind of on a rebound, and it was steady. Still a little bit low in inventory, but it wasn't a frenzy. It was a fairly even balance for the most part. I had pretty much an even set of balance of buyers and sellers. In 2020, that was my 5th year. I had things literally fall in my lap. I had past clients that were calling me, hey, I want to sell my house, I want to buy another one. Or I had another past client that called me and said, I want to buy an investment property. I mean, I hate to say this. Yes, we work hard. The ones who do work hard, but I did not have to prospect. So when I say I didn't have to really work that hard, I did not have to prospect in 20 and 21. It fell in my lap. I was referred like crazy. It was easy, but it was also difficult because it was easy in the sense of businesses everywhere, but it was also difficult because, these poor buyers just were fighting tooth and nail. And I mean,
throwing mud on the wall,
literally offering their second child to sellers to get something. And it was hellacious. And I hope that never happens again. That should never happen again.
That's why we have such a volatile market right now, where the property prices are so skyrocketed. So the average 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house, right, 2019, what was the price of that versus now?
Oh my God, the average 3.2 was probably about, I think it was about 220, 225.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think about our neighborhood.
Now it's about 350, 375.
Wow, so almost a double.
Yeah.
Almost.
I feel like our neighborhood's doubled in value in the past 5 years, and it should never have doubled in value.
No.
Like the prices that people have to pay to get in our neighborhood. I mean, it's not like, it's a nice place, it's a nice area to live, but it's nothing like what the prices you're having to pay.
Yeah, and I mean, I've been in Florida for 2 years, but I speak to a lot of people who start talking about the Florida die down. They move here, but their expectation versus reality is kind of skewed, right? People come down from California because their expectation is the weather's the same, and it's not the same.
Not
the weather in California is very, very, very dry. It's not the same. You come down to Florida, it is a tropical nightmare in summer.
It is.
Right? And a lot of people...
Which is the part that I love.
Yeah, well, I'm great with that, but I found, speaking to a lot of people who have come down from other states, is they come down with expectations. The Sunshine State, they expect it to be very similar to California, and then when they get here, they realize it is not like California. It is bugs, alligators, and everything in summer. Yeah. And the winter's amazing here, right? I like summer too, but I have spoken to a lot of people now that there's a new administration, and now that things seem to be going on the rise, that people seem to be more open of leaving Florida. And also with the changes in the economy, and obviously with the economy crash that we've seen, is interest rates are at all-time high. With those interest rates, as much as they have come down, they're still going to be high, and probably high for a while. So what have you seen in regards to how buyers and sellers are experiencing the market right now?
Well, I think sellers have a slap in the face. And I hate to say that because, some people are just, that's too much, but it is the truth. Sellers do have to be told, because for a very long time, even when I got in the business of 2015, we bought our house in 2011. And I had to tell people, I'm like, look, even though, you're not going to get this house for $10.
Yeah.
And then sellers, you have to tell them nobody's going to pay $10 million for your house. So it's kind of trying to find that even balance. And sellers they're having to renegotiate. You're paying closing costs. You are lowering that price. You are not getting $50,000 over your list price. Yeah. Prices here have come down. We're up 37% in inventory.
Okay.
We're up significantly high. I wanted to make sure that I looked up stuff before I came on here, but we're up 37% in inventory, and then we have 8 months worth of inventory just in Hillsborough County.
And compare that to, let's say, 2 years ago.
Good point.
2 years ago, I think it was up a little bit. I want to say it was up probably, 15 or 16% 2 years ago. And
2 years ago, we were off the high 2 years ago. Probably 3 years ago, we'd have to look at it.
2022 is when. That's when the skyrocket of interest rates.
So that's when it was at its highest. When I say highest, so at the highest where you just couldn't hold on to a product, they just sold like hotcakes.
Yeah, when was the peak of that?
Yeah, what was the
market?
peak?
That was like 21, wasn't it?
I would say June of 20 to June of 2021, even the end of 2021. But that year.
So how much inventory was going at that time? Like how many houses would you say were on the property?
Oh God, there was like 200 active listings in Hillsborough County total. Now there's over 5,000.
Okay, so that gives a good expectation on the wage change.
Massive difference.
Drastically different. And a lot of people are leaving Florida big time for, people came here because they could work remote.
Yeah.
Now they have to go back. And a lot of people also are leaving because of weather. They're like, holy shit, what's a hurricane? Welcome. welcome to the storm. And then a lot of people don't like the summers. People move here for the winters. They don't move here on the summers.
Sure. Yeah.
So they see it as, okay, it's 90 something degrees. The heat index is 100 something. I'm sweating. The humidity is awful. Nobody wants to go outside. So if you're not used to that kind of weather, it's kind of a little bit of a hard slap. But there's a lot of young people because Florida's always been kind of the retirement state.
Yeah.
So a lot of young people moved here, and young people don't want to pay $2,000 for an apartment, a one-bedroom apartment anymore. I don't blame them. And then two, they don't have work. And it's going to be interesting to see a lot of companies, because I think we're going to see a massive shift because the baby boomers are retiring. And that's the generation that had the most amount of people. We have not kept up with that population. So
we should start
corporations, good luck.
Yeah, they're going to need to fill those jobs. And that's a good point. And so speak to the average buyer who's bought in Florida, and let's say they bought between June 20 and June 2021. So they hit that sweet spot. So all of a sudden they found houses that were really cheap. Everyone was coming down here. You couldn't sell enough. And now what's happened is you've held out onto that house. Through this period, you've had an increase, but now what's happening is you may be upside down because your interest rate is gone through the roof, right? Buyers are not buying the way they used to. You don't like the weather in Florida. Should they hold on? Should they sell? Do you expect this to become better? How do you foresee the market going out?
I think if you bought in 20 or 21 and you want to sell, you should sell because you're still going to make money. A lot of people, you may not recoup necessarily the additional money you might have paid for your property, but in 2021 alone, Hillsborough County increased 24% in 1 year. National average has always been about 5% increase of just equity. So we saw a massive shift, especially in Florida. I mean, I would say probably nationwide saw a massive shift, but specifically Hillsborough County, specifically Florida, we saw a 24% increase in equity just in 2021. Last year, I think it was 3.2%. So we're kind of back down to a little bit lower of a level of seeing an increase in the value of your property. So you're still going to have an increase in property. It's just the list prices are coming down.
It's that expectation.
Not necessarily a value's coming down. And they are two different things. And, so,
and I think that expectation's a good thing because of what happened, and it was a world event that changed the structure of how we see everything. And I've seen that around in all the neighborhoods here. Is you see a lot of properties for sale. You see I remember when we moved here 2 years ago, you couldn't find a property that was listed unless it was a ramshackle that they were trying to get way too much money for more than 30 days. They're just kind of turning in, and now a really good properties are sitting for 100 days plus. And a really good insight that I'd like to give it from a real estate agent's perspective, right? If you're coming down to Florida, because despite the fact that we're in a new administration, we're seeing great and massive changes running through the country. We can see improvements happening on an hour-to-hour basis. The reality is places like California and New York are going to take a long time to switch over if they ever do. So you're still going to see an influx of people coming in, especially with the advent of all the tech companies are moving down to Florida. So there's a big economic boom that we have here, and it's still ongoing. They're not going anywhere. Taxes in California are ridiculous on a state level, so people are looking for alternatives. Tennessee is getting a ton of businesses coming in, so is Florida. As that comes in, there's obviously going to be a lot of people moving still to Florida. I think your numbers are going to be lower, but you've still got people coming in. So you've got a family coming in from New York, California, may not be staying in the major suburban areas. So from their perspective is the housing prices here may be a little bit too much. What can they expect, and what advice you give them? What should they look for? Should they lower their expectations? You do the comparisons. You see them on social media. You look at a house in Texas for $500,000. and it's a mansion. And then you look at a house in Florida for $500,000, especially if it's near Clearwater, near the beach, near the high-end areas.
It's a ranch-style home.
3-2.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's completely. So from an expectation is give them your expertise. Someone's coming down. They really need. They from a real estate perspective is they want to understand what their expectation should be. What advice would you give them?
Negotiate. Offer some, like there right now. I personally don't think that there's such thing as a ridiculous offer. If somebody sent me an offer for $100,000 less, I'd be like, okay, I'll present it, no problem. I had something, I think it was last year, a listing sold for $50,000 less. And I said, are you comfortable with this? Would you like to counter? No, I actually am really surprised. And I said, okay, sure. Good. I mean, good for the buyer, good for you guys. You made $200,000, but no, I would tell anybody. And I've dealt with more sellers than with buyers, but I will say I've had to tell sellers, I have one right now, you will be negotiating. This is not 2021. You will not have everything served to you on a silver platter. And sure enough, she did.
I mean, I see that on the mortgage side. Every offer that I get that comes in, every buyer that I'm working with is negotiating their prices and their terms. Like it's literally coming down to like how much of a concession or seller credit is that seller giving.
We are seeing prices kind of start to settle and come down here. Okay. So anybody that is coming here, I think you're still going to, it's like you said, businesses are moving to Florida. We don't have state taxes. Neither does Tennessee. Yeah. Neither does Texas. Those are kind of the states that are really well known for that. And I'm sure there's other ones that I can't name off the top of my head. But yes, I mean, it is a very desirable area. Yeah. Florida in general, if you can tolerate the summers here, it's a great place to be, but...
Why are they still... Like, the interesting thing for me is, like, we're still seeing apartment complexes going up like crazy. And it's just interesting.
Shortage of housing. So apartment complexes generally within the suburban areas, they go up when there's a shortage of cheap or housing that's at a cheaper rate. So there's funny enough, is a lot of people who move from, especially from city folks, young couples who move down, they don't want to have the problem of having to tend to a yard, mowing the lawn, getting a garden service, having a pool. Like for me coming from South Africa, like when we came to Florida, if I'm looking for a house, a pool's a given. Like if it doesn't have a pool, I'm not moving into it. Yeah. Purely because I understand what the summers are like, right? So you need that reprieve. Yeah. But people from a condo building, they still put them up because surprisingly, that's a very good analogy because surprisingly, as much as everything has kind of calmed down, right? There may not be as many people influxing into Florida. I don't think you're going to see the economy boom go away. I just think it's gone from a super high rate and just kind of even down. But it's still a very desirable place for people to go.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a buyer's market here. And that's one thing I've had to talk to people about. A big thing I try to talk to people about is stop listening to national media. I have no idea. You can ask any agent in my office. We talk about it all the time. I'm sure any agent around here will tell you. If I'm telling you we have 8 months worth of inventory, we don't have an inventory problem. Please, for the love of God, stop building. we absolutely, it is a buyer's market. It's favoring buyers right now.
Yeah.
So it's not favoring the seller. And this is what it does. It kind of just, sometimes it's sellers, sometimes it's buyers. Right now it's favoring buyers. Buyers do have a good upper hand. Yes, the prices, are not favorable, but they're not going away. We're not going to all of a sudden go back to 2019 prices, but if you can get, something significantly less than what it's listed for, good for you. You're doing well.
And on that is let's play a game to see how it goes. If Trump's tariff plan works, right, which by every account that I can see, it looks like a really solid plan, and he brings down interest rates, right? What do you expect that to do the most? So let's play two scenarios. The one scenario is interest rates are reasonably high. In a traditional sense, when you're not doing anything at the level that he's doing, and we're just talking a base level, you're looking at about 4 years. We're still paying for COVID.
Yeah.
This is still COVID reprieve. It's, as much as we want to look at the Biden administration and go, they made a lot of bad mistakes, which they did. There's no taking that away. But in the same breath, this, you can't spend $13 trillion and not expect at some point that it's going to come back to you, right? So with that said let's play two scenarios. So the first scenario is interest rates by the magic of Trump's hand within the next year drop down. I wouldn't say the 3% level, but let's look at 4 or 5%.
Well, right. I need to be the one to talk to interest rates as the licensed professional around interest rates. You got to be careful what you say there, so I'm going to save you on that. But interest rates specifically, as much as I would love to believe that Trump has the influence to bring those rates down, it's the Federal Reserve that's controlling this. Now, if he does something to disband the Federal Reserve, that'd be interesting to see how that were to play out. That would be kind of cool. I would love to see that personally. I personally don't think, though, this is just looking at a market perspective, regardless of what Trump does economically, I don't think that the Federal Reserve is going to bring rates down.
I agree with you, but my question wasn't really not the financial side. My question was from a real estate perspective. If interest rates had to drop to around 4%.
I don't think you're going to see that.
No, I'm not saying we are or we're not. What I'm doing is a hypothetical.
Okay.
If it did drop down to those levels, what would you expect to happen to the real estate market in Florida?
I think the buyers would buy. Right now, buyers are still buying, sellers are still selling. It's just a matter of where the buyers want to buy. I truly don't think it's necessarily interest rates. I am still going to say it's prices.
Okay.
It's prices. People just are looking at it and they're like, we hear people our age and they're like, oh my God, I bought my house in 2011, 2009, 2012, even 2015. And they're like, there's no way in ever loving hell I would pay the price today. And I hear that consistently all the time.
If you look back,
I think it's the prices that are the issue. The interest rates, if you're going to buy a $200,000 3-bed, 2-bath house and you have a 7% interest rate, you are winning. But that $200,000 3-bed, 2-bath house is now $375 here. That's the problem.
Got you.
But if you look back after the Carter administration, like back late 70s, early 80s, they had high interest rates, but prices weren't what they are. So you had lower prices with high interest rates. It was fine. Today you have both. You have high interest rates and high prices.
And the problem is they need to lower the millage rate, the millage rate for taxes. The property taxes are just too out of control. So is homeowners insurance. If Florida doesn't fix its homeowners insurance issue, it's going to have a problem. And I think lowering the millage rate, I think it's 18.1 right now. But I mean, our property tax bill is $2,800. Somebody right down the street bought a house. I think they paid $470. That property tax bill used to be, I want to say, $2,800, similar to ours. It's $6,200.
Yeah, I've seen that on a couple of houses.
That is absolutely criminal. That's a big problem too.
And what's causing that specifically? Because our personal experience is the previous house we rented down in Riverview. It was a house, honestly, worth about $280. Right, it wasn't a big house. It was a very simple place. Their yearly tax bill was almost $10,000.
Oh my God!
Right, and when I dug into it, because obviously it's supposed to be 1%.
CDD.
It's one, yeah, yeah. You see,
CDDs.
And now,
That's
what
a
is
big
it?
one down
What
here.
is that, and why does that happen?
See, so we're one of the only areas that has them. But a CDD is called a Community Developed District, and it's when the builder goes in and they basically take a bond against the government, against the state government, local government, and in order to pay that back, they put a tax on the residents that live there.
How is that legal?
That's a great fucking
Criminal,
question.
right?
Yeah,
It literally is. Like, you should be paying that. You're the one that built it, but they got to go in and they got to pay for the infrastructure, the roads, the sewer, the street lights, things like that. And then if they put in any amenities, a pool, a fitness center, things like that.
There's that lagoon down in Waimama somewhere. That's like a massive. It's like a $5,000 a year CDD on that property. It's literally a water park in the neighborhood.
But that's another good point if you're moving down here, because a lot of times someone's moving down, right? You look at the Tampa area brand, and you look where it was really well developed, and you go, "Ooh, that's a bit expensive." So then you, like we did, you said, "Oh, well, Riverview looks like it's up and coming. That looks pretty good." And you buy a property, and now you stack with three times the tax bill.
No shit.
Oh, Riverview. I mean, Riverview is huge, but if the best builders do it all the time. If they don't have a CDD, they are advertising it like crazy. No CDDs, no CDDs, because it can. I mean, the cheapest CDD I think I've seen is probably, I don't know, $1,600 a year, and the most expensive I think I've seen is about, like you said, $5,000 to $6,000 a year,
Yeah,
and
I've
that's
seen
on
some.
top of your tax bill.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and to kind of go back to your question about where, like, if like us, right? If we sold our house, where our tax bill is based on the purchase price that we have from 2011, it doesn't get increased more than 3% a year.
Yeah.
If somebody bought it at market value today, their tax bill is going to be more than double, but they initially get our tax bill,
Yeah.
and then they get reassessed that year.
Yes.
And the following year, their payment is going to go way up.
Yeah.
So, like, think about an additional $3,000 to $4,000 a year for someone
It's a lot of
being
money.
taxed onto their monthly payments. Like that's a lot of money for the average family.
Yeah, especially families that are coming down, just starting. Even not even families just starting, just with the basic price of food, amenities, everything has gone up.
Dude, the grocery store, like I went last night, I spent, I got our usual steak and ground beef, and then I got some vegetables, I got some fruit. I'm trying to think what else. I got a couple things
I
for the kids.
basically filled up my car twice just to go in and have 4 bags of groceries.
Yeah, it was like
It's
$150. Like it's crazy, like the cost of just everything in general. And I think, I think about your question, like if we were to see those 4% rates again, my perspective would be, I think we would see another housing boom personally. Cause I feel like people would look at it as like, oh, it's cheap money again. Let me go get it before I lose it. And I feel like we'd have a lot of mad dash into to the real estate market.